This is Operation B, the podcast about living with intention, building what feels true, and dropping the things that don't. A place where purpose meets practice. I'm Jamie Thurber, your host, and together we'll explore how to live with clarity, freedom, and alignment without burning out or losing yourself, because it's time to be who you're meant to be. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Operation B. I'm your host, Jamie Thurber. And before I introduce our guest, who is here for a very, very specific reason today, I want to explain why. Today is our 100th episode, which is so exciting. And I wanted to take an opportunity. I've tried my best over the past few years, especially to take space to celebrate the wins, because we so often don't, especially when we run our own companies. We're always on to the next thing. We don't take time to look at the cool stuff that we create. So 100 episodes, that's exciting. I think the first 40 were audio only, because back in the day you didn't video. And so we're 100 episodes. And so when I was thinking about who could come and be my guest on the 100th episode, Kathryn was the very easy guess. And luckily she was available to do it today. Kathryn and I met through the online space and were very best friends before we'd ever met in person. And it is just blossomed from there. So I am going to give you my version of Kathryn, and I'm going to let her intro herself a little bit too for more of her professional side.
Am I going to cry? I'm probably going to cry.
No, I don't think so. I'm just going to say, so Kathryn is one of the most caring people that you could ever meet, while also being extraordinarily fierce, especially when it comes to her loved ones. She has 4 daughters, and they're amazing people. They're more emotionally mature than most adult humans that I know. And they're incredible. And she runs multiple companies, helps people carry their own messes and helps them understand parts of themselves that they never knew they had. And she just has a very great gift of healing and helping people, and has learned how to do that while also incorporating it in her businesses that she runs. So tell us a little bit more about how people could, if they want to know about what you do and how to reach you for that, we can give you a little plug here and then we'll just start talking.
Whew, that did make me a little teary-eyed. Gosh. I mean, I started in corporate, right? And working with my teams at, an online magazine. And that blossomed into Influence Digital, which is how we met, and helping people extract their stories and writing them with them, writing them for them, editing them, getting them published, which then turned into coaching, while also going through my own healing journey and becoming a single mom and building businesses. And it's a little bit of everything, right? And I think the way that evolved is that when you're doing the kind of work that you and I do, as much as on the surface we want to say it's business consulting or editing or ghostwriting, the reality is we're digging into people, we're digging into their dreams and their hopes, and how could we not?
Yeah.
So when we talk about the multiple businesses I run and how I, sort of took this gift and ability to walk with people, that's where it came from. How could you not? And so when we were prepping for this and you were like, which business personality are we going to talk about? It's I always have to figure that out. And I think with you more than anybody, I realized in that instance, I don't have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because you've been there from day one, right?
Yeah. True. Same. Which is why this was such a good fit for us to kind of do a little reflecting, basically, because I think that, there's been plenty of times over the years that Kathryn and I have been on the phone and we're like, why are we not recording this? We should be recording this. This is an incredible conversation. Because I think that the world does want us. So it's funny that I even said that, but let alone that it hit you the way that it did, because the world wants us to fit inside of some sort of explanation, and we never ever really have. I think we can tell based on our own, something I think is cool, and I wish for everyone, is to get to a place where you're secure enough in your own abilities and your own desire to do things that you're good at versus things that like pretending like you're something you're not, that you just don't jump into a conversation as like the helping hand unless it's something you know you can do.
Yeah.
And when it's something you know you can help with, you follow your instincts and you approach the conversation to where, you know, any room that you walk into, like you could walk into a room and be talking to somebody about their social strategy and then walk into the next room and be talking to them about getting over a death, and then the next room talk to them about publishing a book. You know, it's like, and I have that same deal. It just really depends on, like, I've been talking about different instances with like becoming a member of the club here, right? And I'm like, I can talk about all my companies, right? Because I don't really just fit into one space. And I think what we've probably, I think maybe one of the most beautiful parts that I've seen us both do is embrace that, where
Do you
most
remember
people
how
told us
hard it
we needed
was?
not to.
But do you
Yeah.
remember how hard it was? Do you remember in 2015, 2016, when everybody was like, figure out your niche, figure out your niche? And like, we used to go to these networking events or be in these masterminds, and we'd be, you know, messaging each other behind there like, I don't want to niche down.
Mm-hmm.
I see so many people in so many industries that I know I can serve, right?
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
the struggle with figuring out for each of us, like, what is our marketing going to look like, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
your marketing now and your social media now is night and day to what it was, and same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was
Yeah.
like we kept trying to follow these cookie cutter prescribed maps that worked for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I can remember like you messaging me and being like, I'm doing everything right. Why isn't this
Mhm.
working? And
Yeah.
it's because we don't, like, we've never been, I mean, little ego here, we've never been the girls who fit in the box, right?
Yeah.
Like even in
No,
our early careers.
no, I mean, and it's that, remember, as you were saying that, all I could think about was sitting in class or like in calls and people talking about their elevator pitch and me feeling like there was something wrong with me because I'm like, I don't fucking know how to do that. Like, I remember
You want
mine
me to
was
talk about me in 30 seconds?
right. So the one thing I came up with, which is still fairly, I mean, this is how you can tell when someone talks about niching down and how you need to do that, how it really does make you smaller. Because the thing that we all collectively agreed on for me was, hi, I'm Jamie. I help people get shit done, which is not false, but it is such a small part of it that it plays down my ability and how I truly help my clients. Like if you were to go talk, and you know, I have clients that I've had for 8 years.
Yeah.
So if you were to go ask them how I help them, it would take them an hour to totally explain it to you if they were willing, you know? And so to have that, I just made me think about like an elevator pitch, unless you do have one very only specific lane, which some people do, and that's totally fine. But I think more often than not, people don't. And so we're made to feel like there's something wrong with us or we're doing something wrong because we can't pitch you on what we do in 30 seconds or how we help people around 30 seconds. But we're doing ourselves and the people that we could be helping a disservice when we do try to break it down into one sentence.
Yeah.
It's just, it's hard.
It's like when people call me the book girl. She's the book girl. And I'm like, yes, that is one facet of what I do. But even in building books with people, even in the ghostwriting and the editing and the publishing piece, like they're literally giving me their heart. They're giving me their life story in ways that most of never even makes it on the page, right? Mm-hmm. But like the book girl, like what does that even mean?
Right.
Like the book itself is such a tiny piece of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like when you used to tell people like, yeah, hi, I'm Jamie. I help people get shit done. Like my nanny helps me get shit done. Is that how you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't.
It can mean a million things.
And it like doesn't encompass. And again, like I get it. I'm super biased. You've been my best friend for a decade. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you knew. So the way this all began, guys, is that Kathryn and I were introduced through a guy we were both doing business with in different ways. And I was project managing people's companies. And that was around the time that I was realizing that the way I could help people the most was to project manage their lives.
Yeah.
And to talk to them about their lives and why they had fears around certain pieces of letting go and of letting themselves have space and structuring their days differently and stuff like that. And so we met each other on a client project manager basis, right? Like that's how the introduction happened. So I think that allows our relationship to also be different because we were looking at each other different at first in a good way, but it let us learn the depth of each other and the purpose there, right? And then the friendship was built on that because obviously like, one thing I know you can relate to is that when you're, whether it's for a book or a brand or whatever it is, when someone's showing you their fears, their excitement, their vulnerability, they're all those pieces, like you can't help but care about them.
Yeah.
And so it does turn into something really special. And that certainly isn't going to be described in a damn elevator pitch, but,
No.
and we've talked so many times about how disruptive it is to young entrepreneurs, especially who are excited and eager. And then they go into these conferences or they go into these coaching groups and they're told stuff like that. And it literally like turns their fire off.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, luckily we had each other and a few other very select few of people who could see that we were like, wait, no.
Yeah.
That's not the case. And we were able to talk to each other and see the complete, what's the word? Hypocrisy.
Disconnect. Yeah.
The hypocrisy that was happening.
Yeah.
You know, like Jamie, Kathryn, you should be making this much money and doing this many things. And then when they would want us to do said thing for them, they didn't want to pay. We were crazy for charging a price or blah, 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 right? And just we were but if we didn't have each other as sounding boards, I can only imagine that we wouldn't still be here because something else we talked about is, right? Like there's a lot of people who do what we do.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of them along the way.
Yeah.
And most of them aren't here anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah. And it's like, it sucks really. Cause some of them probably had really great gifts to give, but they were, diminished.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's funny, cause you go back to that time, the girls were little. I only had the older two,
Yeah.
And I can remember, because they were home and I was working from home. And I believed that story that had been fed to us that like we all had the same 24 hours in a day.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And you should be able to be both the stay-at-home mom and the badass boss babe. And like I was killing myself to make that happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Killing myself to make that happen. And I remember you came into the picture and you were like, we're going to restructure some things. And I remember being like, what? We can't do that. I have to be available to my clients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're paying me thousands of dollars. And it was so eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
Because it was like, business doesn't have to be done this way.
Right.
And
as women, we're told that's the way it is. But then as a woman, it's even more like important that you're that way. So then it becomes this thing that you feel like you have to do or you're going to fail. Yes.
And like you said, how many people were in those groups? Men and women, but especially women. And we know quite a few of them. We've both coached and advised quite a few of them who thought they were doing it wrong because it didn't look the way it looked for everybody else. I think that's one of the biggest things you and I did for each other. Again, having that sounding board, but also having someone saying, if that doesn't feel good for you, let's figure out a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember I still have the screenshot of the first time you went to the park without your computer with the girls because it pops up on my memories every year. And it's always such it's like old Voxer text message. So it's like looks ancient and hilarious, the screenshot. Because I remember sometimes it pops up and I'm like, where did I even write that? I'm like, it's Voxer. That was our big communication back in the day. Yep. And so it was a beautiful thing to be a part of, and to get to I remember I used to feel like I couldn't coach people who were moms.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't listen to me because I'm not a mom. And then
Well, I had to blow that one out of the water for you.
You did. 100% you did. 100% you did. And then when the twins came along, it was like a whole different ball game, right? And so like a whole different level of our skill sets on trying to navigate and negotiate around all of the things had to come to this. They had to come to the surface. We didn't have a choice because now there's two, and mom is recovering from a tragic birth.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just, it was a wild time. And to see now, it's like, talk about making you cry moments. Like it's a beautiful thing. But I think just so much permission that we've given over the years to one another to not always do the thing that, especially if it feels crunchy and forced and icky, like it's okay that we don't. It's okay that we don't tell everyone every single thing that we're doing. It's okay that we don't make it look this. It's okay that we say, hey, group of people, I'm out. Like, I don't agree with what you're doing. I'm going to do my thing over here.
Yep.
And we don't stop. And I think that's the part I tell a lot of people. So now in the podcast industry, right, like we have these conversations. And one of the things that I notice is that I tell people, if you have a show and you like it and you continue to promote it and do it, it's going to work as long as you don't quit.
Yeah.
All right. So something to transition the conversation to a piece of our work and our lives together. And that's really morphed. Like when you mentioned earlier, my socials and my content is so different than it is now. The thing that I think is cool is that the content is different, but the person is the same. The foundation, the root, the core is the same. And that's why it fits. And that's why the people still are there and still listening. And that happened because we turned off the robot and became a human.
Yes. Because we stopped listening to what everybody else was saying. We stopped trying the new trends. And I don't mean like a TikTok trend. I mean like, well, now you're supposed to do a hook this way and you're supposed to say these words and just did what felt good. I think that was the biggest thing, was that the online entrepreneurial space, even now, talks about authenticity, but then they also say, but you have to be authentic this way, right? And we kept trying to do what everyone said was the way to do it. And then when it didn't feel right or it didn't feel good, people would say, well, it's supposed to be uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. If it's not hard, you're doing it wrong. And I remember having these conversations with you where it was like, I don't want to do hard anymore. Why does it always have to be hard? What if I can just feel good about it? Because I don't feel good about this, right? And that's when it really started shifting, I think, for both of us.
Yeah. And that's what's cool is around that same time was when we both, I wouldn't say that we both started immediately making tons more money, but that wasn't as important. The stress around it wasn't the same. We trusted that we'd have what we needed to pay our bills, and we did. Yeah. And it reminds me of, I remember the first time that we were told by a mutual friend, if you walk into the day every day waging war, you're going to have war. Yeah. It's going to feel like war every day. And you're going to eventually be battered to the extent that you can't do this anymore. So the fact that nobody else figured that out is sad, but wild, you know, and for you and I just remember us both, we would post something that was scary and we would say, but it feels like I have to. But it pops into my head and it came out so easily that I know I have to say this thing. And so we just would trust that. And we could go back through our 12 years or whatever many years of conversations and see how many times we would support each other in those moments that something was scary. And we posted it anyway because we could feel it, that it was important. And that's the core piece that I was talking about for the audience to understand, is like, as the messaging has shifted, the premise is still the same. Like, we still stand for the same shit. Like, that part of who we are has not changed at all. And I think that's the cool part of growth, when you're truly not just, pop psychology on Instagram talking about growth, when you're truly doing that work, for lack of a better word, it changes the game, but the foundation just becomes more clear. It doesn't change. It just becomes more clear, and less work to figure out what that foundation is. The rest of it just flows. And man, I don't know about you, but like the freedom that came from that, and I think about that regularly. I'm like, man, the fact that I don't have to worry, I don't care about the reaction to what I say anymore. I really don't, because it's coming from such a pure place that yeah, it's never fun when people don't like you, but at the same time, like, that's life.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you are catering to your audience, to your family, to whoever,
right,
like, you're abandoning yourself in that process. I think that was one of the really big things too. I know you really had to work through that, especially with a lot of your health stuff, is like this tendency to self-abandon so that you don't hurt other people's feelings, so that they don't feel left out, so they don't feel attacked. And the flip side of that, we used to talk about this all the time, is you can refuse to self-abandon without, and you can speak truth without also being a dick.
Oh God, yeah, right? People think, I'm just being honest. It's like,
no, you're being an asshole.
Right. You're using that as an excuse to be an asshole, like, which is not the same thing.
Right. Right. But like
there's
that permission to stop self-abandoning. I remember when things started to really take off for Influence Digital, and I had all of these people, a couple in particular, who were like, you got to do it this way. You got to talk about it this way. You need to get on these particular stages. And I can remember messaging you and being like, I'm so miserable. And you were just like, then don't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there were times where I was like, no, like that says who? Like, stop it. No, that person. I think one thing that we both can say we've learned is, if somebody is telling us that we have to do something one way, that is the last person we should be talking to. Yep. That is the last person we should be listening to, because that is so false. Even in our health, like, that's not accurate. Like, when everyone should drink a gallon of water. That's not true. Right. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of these things that we've learned along the way. If somebody's telling me there's one way, then that's not somebody I need to be listening to. And we've learned that the hard way, to be honest. Like, we've learned those lessons by living through them, and being like, wait a minute, I'm doing everything right. This doesn't make sense. And having those like bathroom floor crying, what the hell moments, there was a time, listen to this shit. Nobody said this out loud on the internet, I don't think, before. There was a time that we would think that my disassociation, because I didn't want to feel what was happening in my body because it was wildly uncomfortable, was me floating outside myself and having these intuitive moments. Now, granted, there was some truth to that, but it was me being too scared to be here. So the only place I could hear myself was out here. Yep. And I just think about that as one example that it just can be so twisted up and cause someone so much more harm. Yeah. Because you just don't know any better, or there's no one talking about the truth of that. Like, no one talked to us about disassociation. Not even 5 years ago was anybody talking about that. I didn't know what the hell that was.
Oh, I did.
But I think we knew that was an aspect for me, but we didn't know how much, right? Yeah. And so it's just, I think about that time and how funny that is. It's just like those but that's where, guys, let's date ourselves. Instagram wasn't a thing when we started doing this. Like, we were on Facebook, we had Periscope, we were posting like in 5 different entrepreneur groups a day. Like, that was the way you built your business, right? And so we didn't have as much of that like Instagram psychology or like pop words that are happening now that misguide people so much. It's like It's almost like the stuff that misguided us and was damaging to us for our businesses is now happening on like a personal development and mental health piece more often than about the businesses, which is
and in the spiritual
scary.
space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like what we had to weather from say like 2015 to like 2019, 2020 was in the business space, right? Like the way people talk about healing and mental health, emotional stability, mental stability, all of those things now is the way they were talking to us about business.
Yeah.
And so maybe it never occurred to me until this conversation. We're sort of inoculated to it at this point because we weathered it then.
Yeah.
We weathered it then because it was the network not marketing, but like the network groups, the marketing groups, it was the live events, it was getting in the room and rah, 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 and here's your pillars, and this is how you're going to make $1 million. And, you know, everybody, you're a loser if you're not flying private. And like,
you're a loser if you're not making minimum 10K a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your monthly nut? Now you need to quadruple that. And you need to, how many scam artists came out of that?
Bro. Like, I'll never forget the day. I got goosebumps right now, literally. I will never forget the day that we found out that a guy that we sat and listened to at a conference about being a good man and a good husband and a good mentor got arrested for beating his wife.
Yeah.
That one still gets me. Not that I really truly believed that guy. I didn't know him very well. Not that I like fully bought into what he was doing. Because I don't know if you remember, but we ran into him on the bus and there was just a certain thing he said that I was like, there's some, I don't think I like that dude. And then it was not very long after that, maybe a year max, where you were like, we like called each other at the same time, like, oh my God.
Yep.
And it's just when you see that happen, of course, there's always people who are going to be that way in every situation, but it was just way too common that a lot of people are just full of shit.
Yep.
But their words were damaging other humans. And that was always something that you and I would get riled up about, but also spend time brokenhearted about. Like, I think our coaching businesses and our personal brands and your group, which I'm going to have you talk about in a minute, I think, and even when I had Operation Do and then this entire show, let's be real, this whole fucking show was built out of the fact that I was like, even if only 10 people hear me say the other thing, somebody needs to hear me say the other thing. Because that piece, it's just, they have to understand, like, it's heartbreaking to see someone believe that, because who gets the biggest stage? The loudest guy in the room. And then we're just sitting over here like, oh, they're just breaking so many people.
And they were.
And we did have the privilege of being able and the honor of helping a lot of those broken people that they broke. We did. Thank God for that. I think that's probably why we were there.
Yeah.
But it is heartbreaking.
It is. And there was so much growth and learning in that for us, because it solidified for me. I don't want to speak for you, but for me, it solidified the importance of standing not only in my truth, but in integrity, no matter what. The other thing it did is it built this, like you were talking about, the foundation. It built this unshakable foundation for me. And like even some of the things that I've experienced in the last couple of years with, you know, getting into a new relationship and moving back to Texas with the girls and those types of things, outwardly, there was a lot of, you know, there have been periods of time for both of us where there were a lot of attacks externally. And like, if I didn't have that foundation of integrity within myself, if I didn't have that foundation of trust and self-respect and that unwillingness to self-abandon ever again, like the things that were happening could have and would have rocked me.
Mm-hmm.
And you've walked through that as well. And so I think, again, we had these pivotal experiences in, the mid 20 teens that a lot of people don't know about and don't understand, that built that foundation that was so solid that now we weather things that would literally just demolish other people.
Yeah, it would have demolished us probably at some point. It's just the thing that I think is interesting about that is that something in both of us knew that while we had every right to publicly explain what the fuck was going on and what we had gone through, there was just something in both of us that knew that it wasn't the right move.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah.
It wasn't going to be helpful. No one was going to hear it. And what did we do instead? And here's the deal. I'll take this analogy for the rest of my life. Obviously, I tattooed it on my fucking body. The light bulb doesn't go out when you're not. Oh, I just had a really interesting little analogy come to my brain. The light bulb in the lighthouse doesn't go out when there's nobody throwing fucking stones at it.
Yeah.
And I thought when you said that, I had to write it down really quick, is the thing that I would say happened with that foundation shift and the integrity is I realized that as long as I had nothing to be ashamed of, if I could look myself in the mirror and get really deep with every single thing I did, every single interaction, and I had nothing to be ashamed of, then I was good.
Yeah. And you have nothing to explain to anyone.
No.
That's the one too, where, obviously we were involved with some very well-known, very high-level people on a very personal level. And when things started falling apart and we both quietly made our exit and the inbox blew up, did you see? Where'd you go? What happened? And we never had to say anything because, again, I know that I'm standing on this foundation that was forged in fire, literally, of truth and integrity. I don't have to defend my actions. I don't have to explain myself. It's the people who feel like they have to make these loud, again, the loudest person in the room has the largest stage, these loud proclamations about their side or their experience or justifying why they did what they did. And we both learned the hard way that generally when someone is screaming about that publicly, they're the ones with something to hide.
That's the truth. No shit. We can make a list. It could be a really long list. Yes. Boy, oh boy. Some people that we don't even know where they went. Like, are you still alive? We don't even know. You disappeared off the face of the earth. Which is fine. But it's funny because I think when I think about the work that we do now, that was once something that we were told we shouldn't do or we should be ashamed of. Or that would never make us money.
That would never make us money.
Yeah, it's fun. So that makes me think about your group. So I know that first it was a scary thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a very private, soul-based place for you.
Yes.
But I think that if you explain a little bit about what Return to Soul is, I think it really shows a lot about a piece of what you created to allow you to still feel like, because when you're writing a book and you're helping someone edit a book, your heart is in it. You're connected to them. And it's tedious.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I've watched you do it, like, holy moly. And so, like, you lock yourself in a room for however many days because you have to, kind of thing. But then there's this soul feeding aspect of other parts of your work. And I feel like the Return to Soul is a big piece of that.
Yeah. So that was a creation for women. It's my women's group. It's very small and very intimate. There isn't anyone in that group that I haven't coached one-on-one or known personally for years. And that's not to say that I wouldn't absolutely welcome new women into the group, but it started as a place where I could go and I could put women that I had worked with who I knew had similar experiences, who maybe if they were experiencing each other in a public setting or on the internet or at one of these giant, super uber masculine networking groups, they would not realize how much they had to give each other and how much they could get in return. I named it, connection to soul, a return to self, because it came out of a period of time for me. I had become a single mom at the end of 2019 with 4 girls. I picked us up. I moved us across the country. We were living in the mountains. And that was this period of time for me where I was rediscovering myself. We talk a lot for women in business and women who've become moms and things like that, that we lose ourselves in the day-to-day. But I think really we start losing ourselves the moment we are put into a culture and a society that, like we said at the beginning, this puts you in a box. They tell you what to believe. They tell you how to educate yourself. They tell you what you like and what you don't like. And it came through for me in 2020 when I was working with my coach at the time. And she turned to me one day and she said, and you echoed this not long after, I hear you talking about who everyone else tells you you are. All of these, men in your life who obviously care very deeply for you and the girls and want to help take care of you, but they spend a lot of time telling you about you. But I never hear you talk about who you are. And it blew me away. I was like, oh my God, because it was from my dad to my ex to, even, and, some women in my life as well too, but also just like these clients of mine who had become friends who were very much like, this is who you are, and this is how you do business, and this is how you mom, and these are the kinds of relationships you need to have, and these are the people who should no longer be in your life. You know what I mean? It was like, wow. And so I spent 2020 and 2021 returning to myself, like quieting the outside voices. And like literally things like, what is my favorite color? What is my favorite food? How do I want to wear my hair? Mm-hmm. Like what little things that you would think don't matter, but they absolutely do matter. Mm-hmm. And so from that, I really got to start working on that with my clients in ways, especially, like I said, my female clients, asking these questions like, but who are you? When no one else is in the room at 3:00 in the morning, when you've had a rough day because you're raising 2 2-year-olds and their older sisters by yourself in the mountains in Utah, while running 2 businesses and starting a third because you're a psycho in the midst of COVID, who are you? And I wanted to create this space where women could come and have those conversations. It's also a space where I get to fully be myself. So I get to go in and talk about, inner child healing work and nervous system regulation and trusting your body and self-abandonment and, the wounds that we carry forward and how they become coping mechanisms and adaptations. And it's where I get to talk about astrology, which is something that I absolutely love, but didn't know a whole lot about when I started the group. It was just something I was super interested in. And so it's also a place where I think women who have worked with me, who look up to me, who come to me for advice, get to see me being not great at things, right? They get to see me make mistakes.
Yeah.
They get to see me in my own learning process. I've gotten on there and bawled my eyes out while the twins were screaming and crying and crawling all over me, and have literally just sat on video with the women in that group and cried at how difficult and how challenging that moment in time was for me. And I think in the same way that we have spent years giving each other permission, that's giving them permission to be who they are and feel what they're feeling, even if it is in a very private place. Like, I don't believe that those things belong on the big internet.
Sure. Right.
But it is a place where they can live, and you can be in sisterhood. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, when you can be that fully authentic, you do return to yourself.
Absolutely. And those words that you're sharing, it's funny because I remember, like, as you created the group, like, I was doing the same thing. I wasn't creating a group around it. I remember when my doctor asked me what I like to do for fun, and I didn't know. I was like, I like to go four-wheeling. And he was like, when was the last time you took your Jeep off-road? And I was like, oh, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. He's like, okay, so I don't know if we add that to the list or not. I'm like, shit, I don't have an answer for this, right? But yeah, I was learning that again. And that was the era when I took out all the hair extensions. I quit getting Botox. I quit going to all the appointments. I started doing my own nails. Like, I was like, I have to simplify my life because all that other shit doesn't matter. And what it does is it makes all this noise that made my life more complicated than it needed to be. And I've had to reconfigure who I am because all that stuff was part of me. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was a part of the journey. The mermaid hair will go down in history. The mermaid hair era. And I'm learning to not need that, right? Like, there are still times that I look in the mirror and I don't recognize myself still. You know, it's a totally different weird world. But that's what Operation B was built out of. That's why when we came back from the break into season 2, things changed. And, you know, I'm going to give you a minute. I'm going to ask you a question. And this makes me uncomfortable, but I feel like I should ask. What would you say about that change from Operation Do to Operation B? Because you witnessed it firsthand.
It made perfect sense to me. But like you said, I've witnessed it firsthand. Like, I was on the phone with you when we got blood tests and diagnoses back. I can remember being on the phone with you even before then, when you were like, what is wrong with me? And I was like, it's not in your head. It's not in your head. This is crazy. Stop letting them tell you that. You know what I mean? I can remember even when you were living in that little house, right? And, you know, having you text me or call me and be like, my mom's on her way. Like, I can't even stand up. I'm doing everything right. I'm eating the proteins and I'm drinking the drinks and I'm doing the gym. And why is this still happening to me? And so watching you transition from season 1 to season 2, from Operation Do to Operation B, felt like the most natural progression. But that, again, that's because I've been behind the scenes. Like, I've watched you go from being, I mean, I still have my bag that says "Get Shit Done" on it in all of your brand colors, right? Like, I've literally watched you and loved you and supported you go from being this, you know, amazing human being, but a robot. Meal prep every Sunday, 5:30 a.m. every day. I'm lifting this, I'm eating that, I'm tracking these macros, I'm doing these micros, I'm doing, you know what I mean? Like, block schedule. Like, I can remember looking at your Google Calendar and being like, you scheduled free time. That's very Jamie of you. You know what I mean?
I have a very popular video on the internet that says, no, I do not schedule sex. Because it was a question that I would get frequently when I would talk about the way that I fractured or functioned with my time. Yes.
And I watched how, like, and it was not easy for you. And it wasn't something that happened overnight. For people who, they're like, oh, season 1 was this, and all of a sudden we've got season 2, like, it was the flip of a switch. And what they don't understand is that was a years-long process.
Yeah.
And there was so much grief behind the scenes for you. There was so much shame. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do these things anymore? And then when you realize what forcing yourself to do those things did to you in the long run, it was like, God, I can't believe I did that to myself for so long. There was fear. There was hesitation. There were times where you'd try to slip back into it because that, as uncomfortable and unhealthy as it was, it felt safe. At least you knew what it felt like to hurt every day. You knew what it felt like to feel sick every time you got on an airplane. You could deal with that, and you were willing to push through it and live that life because that was all you knew. So it felt right, the transition from do to be, because that's the transition you've been in your life. The part that most people don't know is what had to happen in here for you to make that transition.
Yeah.
And if you tried to do it earlier, I'd have told you no, you weren't ready.
It saved my life. Like, I had to, right? Like, if I wouldn't have done that, I don't know where I wouldn't be okay. And I don't mean like I would kill myself. I mean, like, my body was going to stop functioning. And I know you know that. I'm saying it for the others. The thing that people don't know is, like, I made a decision in your house in Utah because my body, I could not control it at all. And the last time that I faked it was at your event, She Reigns.
Yep.
But I was in a room with energy that allowed me to stand up, and I was okay. The next day, I got a car and I drove home, and I promised myself, and I haven't been on an airplane since.
Yep. And
I haven't pushed myself since. The furthest trip I've taken was to buy Frankie, and it kicked my ass. I thought I would be fine. 3 hours drive, 3 hours back. I thought I'd be good. Nope, not okay. And so with those pieces, though, I mean, everything changed after that. A lot of people don't know that I drove 19 hours home from Utah because I promised myself in your room. Well, I took over your bedroom in your house that you didn't have other room in, by the way, because I was so sick that I was like, I will not do this to you anymore. Talking to my body, like, I will not do this again. Yep. And I haven't, and it's been hard. The thing that I think is cool about things, and like my episode that went out before this one, I sent you the clip from it, and I was like, what a Jamie conversation that felt like. It was so good, and it felt very much like a very beautiful part of the transition too, of being able to have those moments where I think about the thing that I feel like people need to know, and I say it, and it finds the people that it needs. And that's why I like this project, and that's why I will keep doing the project. I think that's been fun to bring guests on here in the last little bit, and I'll keep doing that. But I don't know. It's an honor, I should say. Like, it really has. It's been an honor to have people that I don't even know personally care about what's happening and tune in, but also to give a voice to people who feel like they were alone and didn't have a Kathryn that was like, you're not crazy. This is not in your head. And then, being able to find people like Jesse and Amber to help me deal with the emotional and energetic backlog of that shit. So yeah, it's been a complex journey to get us here, but I know that I want to have more specific conversations with you on episodes in the future because we have really great things to say about a lot of topics. But I thought today, with it being the anniversary episode, we would just kind of talk about us, like our relationship and the changes we've been through, because it is, very, very different. And also we are very different, but also the same in a lot of beautiful ways. And that's the nice part. I tell people the parts that matter didn't change, and they never will. We will put Kathryn's links below, everybody. And I do believe, like, you should definitely follow her when Kathryn gives you the words, You should stop and read them. It is a thing. She
Doesn't
doesn't always
happen
give you
very
the words,
often anymore.
but when she gives them to you, you need to stop and you better read them because it's good. We'll also put a link to your group page on there too, if anybody wants to join, because it is a beautiful space when you don't have a place to go, where you can just be a person.
Yeah.
And it's safe and fun, and everybody in there is kind. And I've met a lot of women just from being in your group that I'd heard you talk about, but I never met, so that was fun. And yeah, we'll just have to do this again soon.
I would
Very
love that.
excited. Yes, thank
Can't
you so
believe
much for
100
taking the
episodes.
time today.
I'm so proud of you. Like,
Thank you.
burstingly proud of you.
Yay, thank
Because
you.
there were times where you were like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a thing, where I love, like, we've had shows come through the production company where our hosts are professional athletes, and people are like, oh, it should go viral. I'm like, that's not how the internet works. That's definitely not how podcasting works. There are times that you're recording episodes and nobody is listening.
Yeah.
Like, it happens.
Yeah.
But it matters what your reasoning is, right? Like, my reason was bigger.
Yeah.
And I kept going, and I am proud of that. So thank you for saying that. It matters. It's a big deal.
I love you.
I love you. Well, thank you for being here. And as always, you're welcome. It will happen again soon. As always, guys, thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this message, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it with somebody that you think could benefit from the conversation. And if you have not already subscribed, do so, or leave us a review. That helps support the message and get it out in front of more people. And happy 100. Yay. Thank you for listening to Operation B, the podcast. To support this message and to support the show, please make sure that you like, follow, and share wherever you enjoy listening. And be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. That's the way to support this message. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.